Thank you for joining me on Bizworld this Friday evening. I'm Nakia Basharuddin. The government has allocated 100 million ringgit to fund the Technology Startup Funding Relief Facility to assist technology startups affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under this special fund, loans are interest-free and expected to benefit between 60 and 80 startups to ensure their business continuity.
Sukacita saya maklumkan bahawa kerajaan melalui Kementerian Kewangan Malaysia telah bersetuju untuk memberi pinjaman tanpa faedah kepada Malaysian Debt Ventures, pinjaman kepada Malaysian Debt Ventures sebanyak 100 juta ringgit Malaysia bagi membiayai program yang dinamakan Technology Startup Funding Relief Facility ataupun TSFRF. Program ini merupakan inisiatif kerajaan untuk membantu syarikat startup teknologi yang terjejas akibat wabak COVID-19.
The fund, facilitated by Malaysia Debt Ventures with maximum financing limited to 2.5 million ringgit. The minister said the application and fund disbursement process has been made simpler and faster without compromising the credit assessment aspects from MDV. Based on survey done by Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre Magic, over 50% of the technology startups needs between 500,000 ringgit up to 1 million ringgit to ensure the sustainability of their business in 2020. Malaysia's GDP growth is expected to ease to an annual rate of 2.2% in the first quarter of 2020 from 3.6% in the fourth quarter of 2019. IHS Markets estimates the country's first quarter growth looks set to be worse than the depth of the global financial crisis. In its week ahead economic preview note, the research house said the week ahead would see some key retail sales and industrial output numbers released globally, which would provide important signals as to just how steeply economies may collapse in the second quarter. The firm is expecting some gloomy news given that the Purchasing Managers Index surveys for April 2020 showed the global economy contracting at an unprecedented rate, with manufacturing slumping at a pace not seen for 11 years. Next week, we'll see the release of a number of key data around the world, including Malaysia's first quarter GDP data set for May 13th. Japan is also set to release its GDP figures, U.S. retail sales and industrial output data for April, as well as China industrial output, retail sales and jobless data for April. Malaysia's unemployment rate increased to 3.9% in March, the highest in 10 years. According to the chief statistician, Datuk Seri Muhammad Uzir Mahidin, unemployed individuals rose over 610,000 as compared to 521,000 in the same month last year. The figures was highly attributed to the negative impact of the Movement Control Order MCO on the labour market. Meanwhile, the labour force participation rate declined to 68.6% after recording its highest rate in January 2020. The working population was 15.23 million persons. Of this, 2.81 million were own account workers, such as traders at farms and night markets, caterers and freelancers. These group of workers were exposed to the risk of unemployment and work losses that affect their income during the MCO, partly due to inability to work. Global consumption of oil and gas is expected to be the worst hit in the second quarter of this year, but demand recovery will likely begin in the following quarters. Maybank IB research analyst Liao Tongjun said the third quarter period would be the inflection point as major economies begin to open up. He also said the supply oil cut will start from May, driven by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, with an additional 9.7 million barrels per day, and potentially cuts from non-OPEC will add between 4.0 million and 7.0 million barrels per day. The research house said local oil companies had been performing poorly in the first quarter of this year, as most responded proactively to this crisis by slashing capital expenditure, reducing OPEX, and cutting output to preserve cash. That's all the time we have for Bizworld. With that, I'm Nakia Basharuddin. Thank you for watching, and for those fasting, selamat berbuka puasa.